This presentation is a question of going around these 14 or so virtual screens. On each screen, I've got a little bit of a text file to help me remember what to say. And on this one, this is really, I'll say something about TWimp. There might be something useful in there. Are you recording? Yes. And the following headings describe what I'm about to say. The first one is machine setup for the presentation. And I'm going to talk about TWimp resources. And then the main thing, which is a demo of how to create a small app. And then a break, and then a demo of how I created the program to create blog entries. So first of all, machine setup. I think it's worth understanding this because it's a bit complicated. So I've mentioned Moredesk. It's a set of window definitions. That's this thing down here. And you can step through them by double clicking. It goes to the next one and the next one. I'm using a Pinebook, old-fashioned Pinebook, not the Pinebook Pro, and I'm using it in big mode. And I mentioned the bug, see the icon bar, and here is a bug. I'll show you a bug. So if I open up choices on Moredesk, it goes to config, and there are supposed to be two tabs on this first page, and you can't access one of them. If I were to switch to ordinary mode, you can access both. Now, I don't know if that's a problem with config or a problem with big mode, but it's not terribly important. Right, the Pinebook is closed and the screen is switched off. I'm hoping that means the battery will last out. The Pinebook is running VNC Server, and the Mac Mini, which is what I'm running the Zoom from, is running a real VNC client. And keyboard and mouse are that's interesting. The keyboard and mouse, I think, are controlled by Zoom rather than the real VNC client, because I'm sharing the screen, and I think it's Zoom that controls it. But whatever's doing it, I find it easier to use the Pinebook through various layers of VNC and Zoom than it is to use it in its own right, because I've got better mouse control and a better keyboard and a bigger screen. You may notice the black background on the Pinebook. That definitely helps when it comes to moving things about. Okay, TWimp resources. I'm not going to say very much here because you're all going to go to Graeme's meeting next Wednesday and he'll tell you all about it. But I think there is a website, and you can read that. Program a WIMP application using text to describe what you want. And you can buy it or you can have the free version. I don't think I need to say any more about that. Basically, it helps you make WIMP apps. There is a module. This is the heart of this system. The module runs and it intercepts SWI calls and it handles stuff on Windows. It's in system. If I go to directories, system, and it installs into modules 310, and let me just, there's TWimp and there's TWimp demo. And of course, that's in system. They're not running from there. I run them at boot up time, so they are always there. Close. Oh. Now, if I run Verma, what happened there? Oh, Verma. Won't run Verma that way. Run Verma. And I'll scroll to the bottom. Just a minute. Do a search. There they are. That's quite some way off the bottom. There's TWimp, 30th of March, and it is running. And here are the swires that it supports. And you know, it also supports some commands. I've also got TWimp demo because I've got a couple of programs I wrote using demo, but it works the same as TWimp. Same commands, and as far as I know, same, presumably they're different SWIs, 5A740, and yeah, different set of SWIs. So those two modules are running in my system at startup. So when you look at the programs I'm working on, I don't RM ensure them for the purposes of this demo, because if they're not running, there's something wrong with my system. And that's all I want to say about the TWimp resources, apart from this filer here. There's TWimp demo, which I downloaded, and it comes with system, which contains 310 modules, TWimp demo, and I just installed it in the ordinary way. And TWimp full comes with a bit more, but again, the system the same as before, and some examples. But so the actual TWimp program is inside system, and it comes with a PDF, which is a manual for how to use TWimp. The next thing is after the TWimp resources, I've closed that, is the demo of a small application. I develop a small application on the top 7 screens, basically, one at a time. And then the last thing I won't cover here. Well, I'll say what I'm going to do to save confusion. I'm going to switch from the Pinebook to the ARMX6, and the blog program I'm going to show you is more or less complete. I'll demo how to use it and talk about how I made it. But that will be that's definitely informal, more of a chat. Okay, moving on to the next arrow screen. Just double click and you'll notice that the TWimp reference manual opens all by itself. That's courtesy of Moredesk Automate, and there you can see it's got auto run TWimp PDF. I've not got a lot to say about this. I'm using it a lot these days, mostly page 2, which is content. I'll just shrink that down a bit. no, up one. There's 3 pages of clickable, linkable index, which is very handy. For example, I can just click on TWimp start, and there we are, TWimp start. Very nicely done. Go back to there's 3 pages of it, 3 pages of clickable contents, and the manual itself is 71 pages long, and it's pretty comprehensive. I could do with another 100 pages of examples, but I think all the facts are there. Okay, so moving on to the next screen, the bottom left screen with a caret suggesting that we go upwards afterwards. And this is a file window containing the a directory for each step of the app. I'm not going to say what the app is, it becomes clear as I go on, but essentially I'll start off with that absolutely as simple as possible, and then add bits to it each time, and eventually it becomes clear what's going on. And it does end up with a workable and useful app. And I've chosen this particular app because I needed it. So I won't open any of those. 7 is still open. That was there. I'll close that one. Right, on to the next page, which is top left one, and more desk as nicely opened up TWimp -1 directory, and has also opened up the application. So look at this. There's an application called Ola -1 and a text file, which says something about it. And it's only a few, the most minimal of minimal, really, I should say, of WIMP programs. It's not a lot of use, but it is a WIMP program. It just shows that it runs. So it's like a shooting star. You blink and you'll miss it. I think even if you don't blink, you'll probably miss it. But the only evidence of it appearing is that the RISC OS task window will flicker, and the task usage, if I run it, will show some activity. Kill that for a minute. There's task usage. If I click that, I think, and I'll open the task manager as well, the RISC OS task manager. And watch carefully as I double click on OLR1. Well, I saw a blue thing happen on all module tasks. Anyone else see it? Yeah. Right. Well, that isn't terribly interesting, so I'll leave that behind. And it does show some activity in Reporter, but I'm not going to cover that. But I'm now going to just open up this application, and you can see what's going on. First of all, the run command doesn't do very much. It just runs the run image from a Bader. And the run image is also pretty minimal. That's it. It's a Python program that imports the SWI library and then does a TWimp start, and it starts a task called Hola Mundo, hello world, and it then immediately calls a SWI and ends the task. So that's why it just flashed. I'll stop that, we don't need that. I'll move on, leave that one behind, as it's not terribly interesting, but it does introduce the run program and the Python program. But note at the moment there is no TWimp data. TWimp is involved because TWimp is starting the task and ending the task and clearing up the mess, but there's no window furniture, so there's no TWimp file. So let's go back to get the more desk back and move on to the next step. That was OLAR -1. This is OLAR 0. This is really a minimal WIMP program. It starts a task called OLAR Mundo, but it hasn't got any windows, so you can't see it. But if you open the tasks window, you can see it appears there. And you have to use the task menu to quit. I'll just open the tasks. And I'll run OLAR 0. And it should appear round about where NetSurf and Zerma are, down there somewhere, round about here. And there it is, OLAR Mundo. And that is because that's the name in the start WIMP. Now, as it said, the only way to quit this program is to put a menu on there and quit it. And now it's gone. So I'll open the run file again. It isn't any different from the previous one. It's got some comments to say kill it from the task manager, and it just runs a beta run image, which is the run image there. If I open up run image, this is what a minimal TWimp program looks like. Forget the stuff in green, that's just comments, and the rest of it is Python, but it's pretty easy to read. Again, starting with import the library that supports SWISE. Do a TWimp start, giving it a task name of OLAR Mundo, which you saw in the tasks. Set a variable quit to 0, and all the time that quit is 0, keep going around this loop. The poll loop, same in any language. Does a poll set up, does a poll idle, and then it gets an action, and which is returned in here. Reason equals the result of this y, and then if reason equals quit, set quit to 1, drop out of the loop, test quit is no longer 0, so it drops out of that, and we've seen it go before TWimp ends, so the program ends. That's it. That's a minimal TWimp program. It's still not a lot of use, but it does. I mean, you could do things there not involving Windows, like I don't know, run some code to do something, make some bitcoins. So let's close that one and move on to the next step, which is TWimp 1. And now, going back, if you look at this window, it's got 2 items in it. This one's got 3 items in it. So there's a clue here, it's moving on. I open the text file. So the program starts a task with an icon bar. It's using a borrowed sprite from resources, and it will quit when the icon bar icon is clicked. So let's actually test that. I'm going to get rid of Verma. We don't need Verma, and we don't need that. We don't need that. We probably don't need that. I will leave that. OLR1. And there it is. Isn't that a lovely icon? I think that's courtesy of Rule. It comes from was it? No, how do you get comes from resources, and it comes from the WIMP resources, and it's from sprites, and down the bottom somewhere there's a couple of icons called user, I think they're called. Yeah, there we are, user 1 and user 2 for us to use. So I just thought that was a convenient one to use for this demo program. So it's not much more to say. It starts with an icon bar icon, and there it is. If I put the menu on it, that's the wrong one, quit that one. I'm clicking this with the menu button, nothing's happening. I'm clicking it with a left-hand click. Oh, it's disappeared. Is that what I expected? Let's open up TWimp data and find out. Yes, on click quit. I'll just run it again. Oh, it says there it quits when the icon is clicked. So if I do a left click, it goes. It doesn't care what sort of click you give it. Except that doesn't click on a menu. It clicks on left or right. So I'll click that. I'll run it once more. And I'll show the task. And oh, I've got 3 there. So that's interesting. It doesn't actually quit. Yes, it did. With that one. And quit that one. All right, and move on to the next window.
So, John, could we see the run image of that one? So what it's actually
Sorry,
doing?
yeah. I thought we didn't we not see that one? All right. I don't think it's any different because I didn't do anything in the program. No different.
So it's just using that TWimp data file.
Yeah, that's the only change. The only change at all was from the TWimp data. It's part of the power of it. It's just using the TWimp with just that. That puts an icon bar icon on the icon, an icon on the icon bar, and also sends a quit message through to the program. But the program already supported the quit message from the previous one.
Yeah. Oh, I can see where you've loaded it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Moving on to that was OLR1. On to OLR2, and the excitement is mounting. I can tell that. You're wondering where this is going. Right. Text file. We've still got the 3 files. The run file is no different. What does the text file say? The text file says that the WIMP program now has an icon bar icon, and the icon bar has a menu, and it's got info and quit on it. Now, there's no change to the run image again. I'll just show that. So this is all happening with just TWimp alone. Absolutely no change, just supports the quit. So let's I'll run the program. And there it is on the icon bar. I'll put a menu on that, and that now has a menu which wasn't there the previous one. And if I click quit, it will quit. So I won't do that. And it's got a name of OLR, which comes from. Oh, I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, the info is populated. It's got a name, OLR Mundo. It's got a purpose, welcome to everybody. It's got an author, and it's got a version number, rather a familiar version number. Okay, and if I click quit, it's gone. And let's check that it has gone. It should have gone. It has. So let's close that. It says here I've got icon bar with info and quit. Close that and open up the TWimp file and stretch it out a bit. And that's the whole TWimp file. That top bit isn't new. We've got a sprite. The sprite is user2 from the sprite pool. On menu opens IBM menu. IBM menu. It's nothing to do with IBM. It's IB menu. And on click quit. So that hasn't changed. And this is a menu item with a name of IB menu, which relates to the on menu open. And with text of OLAR, that's where the OLAR came from in the title bar of the menu window. The next item is info, and you can see that down there. And that has a sub-menu of about, and that's the sub-menu. And has an item of quit with an on-click quit. Now we come down to this next bit, which is another item, which has a name of a belt, and that is referred to as by the sub-menu. The sub-menu here, a belt. Is that a belt down there? And you can see the purpose is, just get rid of that. Purpose is welcome to everybody. The author is me, and the version is a version of Pi. I think that's a bit that Pi is a bit ambitious. I prefer my Pi to be round about that size. If I save that, quit that, and run OLAR2 and do a menu, and now my version is a bit more reasonable. And let's okay, that's enough about that one. I was going to change the welcome into English, but I think I don't need to do that. Moving on to the next item, which is that was 2. This one's 3. And look, same pattern, looking at the text file. You'll find that the run file hasn't changed. And the main program hasn't changed. I don't think the main program hasn't changed at all since the start. It's all being done by TWimp so far. But this has an icon bar icon, you've seen it. It's got an icon bar menu with info and quit, that hasn't changed. And it's now got a main window. So it might say it's a fairly dull window, but all the window gadgets work on it. And that's all done by the TWimp module, or by the WIMP. I'm not sure of the difference. So let's run the program. And there it is. And this is a separate program from the last one, so you've still got the original version number. And it's also got, I'm not going to do the quit, but if I click on it, bang, you get a window opened up with scroll bars, with all the normal furniture, and that's a default window. I'm going to open up the TWimp data file that define this window, so you can sort of compare the two of them and get them side by side. I'll just drag that to one side. Notice I've smallened that. I'll get rid of that as well. Smallened that window. I can small that as well. And in so doing, the scroll bars have come into operation. can scroll up and down, side to side. You can't see anything happening. Well, I can actually. I can see some movement, some shadows moving. It is redrawing that window when I do that. So that's the new bit of stuff. The stuff above that red circle is just the same as it was before. So there's a window item defined. It's got a name of main window, not very imaginative, but you can call it what you like, but main window would do for me. And it has a title. The title is Ventana Principal. That means main window in Spanish. And it has a size of 800 by 600. Oops, get rid of that. Close that. So I'm going to close the TWimp now and just start playing with this window for a bit so you can see that if I click on the top button, as expected, it maximizes. If I click on it again, it minimizes. Maximize, minimize, maximize. If I click on the iconize button, unsurprisingly, it iconizes to the top right. If I click on it, no, it doesn't get the yellow focus because there's nothing in it to click on. But let's supposing I put, if I click on the top left, put behind icon, it goes behind. And not surprisingly, if I click on the X, it disappears. Okay, that's all I've got to say about OLAR 3. But now we're starting to motor. We have a program that opens a window. What's it going to do? Anyone who was there at the start and spotted what window 8 formula was showing might know. But so text file. Again, just to recap, it has an icon bar with a menu, has a main window and some gadgets, and some changes into TWimp data. I've given it a new window title that makes more sense than main window. I've added a numeric input field. I've added a button, and when you click the button, it will pop up an error window. So let's test that. So remember that's a new window title, a numeric input field, a button, which is clickable. So let's run that. The run program hasn't changed either. That's still the same as before. The run image, I don't think it's changed either. Oh, it has. I'll come back to that. The run image now supports a calculate button. Right, it's running. And menu, same as before. I won't go into that. If I click on it, up comes the window, and now you can see it has a title, Calculate the Future Value of an Investment. And it allows you to enter the present value at this point. I can control U on, I'm going to press control U, you can't see me doing that, but it should clear the box. But you see it hasn't cleared the box. And the reason for that will become apparent later. If I now type in 9999 and one more, it will go to 1,000,000. That's the maximum that field will hold. And the minimum that field will hold is 100. And if I type in a minus, it doesn't like it. And if I type in hammering on the keyboard, it won't take it. That's a numeric field that will only take numbers, which is very handy. And when I press calculate, this button down here, What happens if I shrink that? Yeah, it disappears. I thought it might. It says the calculate button was pressed with an alarm sign. And I'll close that window and open up the run image, the TWimp data first of all. Now going past the icon bar, and they'll put a comment on the main window because it's getting a bit bigger. It's all on the screen now you need. So I've got a new title, calculate the future of an investment. And it's the same size, 800, 600. And now if I click that, you've got a label, a text label, enter present value, which comes out there. And that's X20, Y100. So that's 20 in for the enter, and it's Y100. It's 100 from the top. And then there's a number field. The number is called as a variable name, PV, and that has a value of 1000 with a maximum allowed of 1 million and a minimum allowed of 100. I'll just change that. When I next run it, it will be 10. And I'll change that, make that 2 million. Now this box is writable, it says. So if I click in that, I can write in it. It has no arrows. That's specific. You have to say no arrows, otherwise you get arrows. And then there's a button that says, it's bottom right, so it's in the bottom right of the window, and it's 2020, so that's 20 in and 20 up. And the text should say calculate, which it does. And when it's clicked, it will send the word calculate in capitals to the running program. So if I open TWimp, open the run image, the only change here is there's now another trap in the loop. So if reason is quit, quit. If reason is calculate, issue a TWimp error, calculate button pressed, and then go back in the loop again. So I'll press that, and there it is, calculate button pressed. Oh, if I just change that. This is taking a chance here. That won't. No, that's loaded. It's interesting, didn't really know that. I'd have to stop that, quit that, run that, click that, and click that. Calculate pressed. Yeah, so that's interesting. It doesn't, I didn't know that. I didn't know it actually took a copy of the Python program. Quit that one, quit that one, quit that one, quit that one. And what's that? Save text? Yeah, save text. Okay, moving on now to the last window. No, it's not. Second to last window. So right at the end here, and this is OLAR 5, text file. Everything the same, apart from TWimp data, I think, which has 2 new numeric input fields, and they've got arrows on them. And there's a display field to show the results of the calculation. So close that and run it. Get rid of that. and click it. And here is our new window: calculate future value of an investment, enter present value, set the interest rate, set the number of years, and calculate the future value. Well, I can set that to 144,000. I can set the interest rate, talking stock market, something like 7%, and I can set the number of years to 10 and calculate. Calculate button pressed. Continue. Oh look, it didn't do the calculation. So that's the treat on the next window. So I've got everything in place there, and let's just have a look at the run image. Hasn't changed. Oh, it has changed actually. I didn't notice that. The last time I pressed a calculate button, it had an exclamation mark in a triangle. This one has got a stop sign and a file sign. Just to demonstrate that you can have different sorts of error messages. And if you look down there, that's got it's a TWimp error, 2 strings, calculate button pressed, and a sprite file of FFF, that's the text sprite file, and the word stop. Text file and the word stop. And it's modal. And finally, on to the last screen. Text file, everything the same as 5, but now the calculate button displays the future value of the investment. So OR6, I haven't changed the menu. And there's no menu on the main window. I haven't done that. I thought that's easy to add. So here are the values. I'm going to put in $144,000 with an interest rate of 5% and do it for 10 years and click calculate, and it's pretty well, it's gone up quite a bit, hasn't it? Let's make that 20 years. So it's pretty well trebled in 20 years at 5%. Now, given that the stock market in the UK for the last 30 years has put on 7% per year, and I'll take that down to something more reasonable, like £1,000. So £1,000 invested in the stock market, assuming 7% growth a year for 20 years, it's nearly 4 times as much. Here's, let me look at the TWimp first. TWimp data. It's nothing spectacular here, just that you've got fields with arrows. They're writable and no arrows. There's a number here which is the interest rate. It's got a value, a max and a min, and it's writable and it has arrows. And the same with the number of years. It's got a minimum of 1, max of 30, initial value of 5. It's writable and has arrows. And the last one, the future value field, has a label of future value, and it's a number at this position with no arrows and not writable. And that hasn't changed. The program is now the only change here is in if reason equals calculate. I'm just showing this because if reason equals calculate, forget all this for a minute. Issue is SWI, TWimp update number, string integer, u of fv, and give it the value of whatever's in fv. So this bit calculates fv. Present value equals read the value from PV and print it. The rate, read the value from interest rate, print it. The term, read the value from term and print it, and then calculate future value as an integer of present value times 1 plus rate over 100 raised to the power of term, and then print the future value as 8.2, and then update the future value field on the window with FV and end. Now, I've shown that because one of the problems of debugging a WIMP program is the print statements. Certainly a basic program, if you do a print statement from a basic program, it just goes out into space and you lose it. You could use reporter, but with Python you can just use an ordinary print statement so long as you define standard error and standard out. Now that is where the run image is, not the run image, it's where the run has changed. On the run program now, I run a beta run image, and 1 goes to P out and 2 goes to P error. So that's standard error, that's standard out. And they get written, well, the first line sets appdir to a beta. So we're talking about this application directory. And you can see there you've got P error and P error. I can't open them because Python keeps them open until it's finished. So if I close that, and I open P error, there were no errors, so it's blank. But if I open P out, I ran it a few times, so it just builds up. You can PV 144, rate of 5, term of 10, future value that, and with a rate of 5, future value that. And there's the last calculation, present value of 1,000, rate 7, and there's that. So it's quite a good way of logging. And that concludes the presentation first part. So I'll stop share, and any questions, anybody?
So how much easier do you think it is using TWimp than the standard methods, John?
By using the toolbox in Python, it is a complete nightmare. I've written three programs using toolbox in Python, and I spent months debugging them. They use an object-oriented model, so you have to write OO programs to use them properly, otherwise it's a complete mess. And if you don't get on very well with OO, you wouldn't go there. Even if you do like OO, it's still much more complex. And you have to define your windows using, I forgot the name of it now, it's a window definition program. which comes with the DDE, and you can draw little pictures on a window, and then the toolbox reads it. It's a jolly sight easier having a text file that you can read yourself without having to get any special tools to do it. So yeah, certainly with Python, it's very much easier using TWimp. And I'm with Basic, I'd say it was easier as well, unless you're using something like App Basic. If you're writing your own Basic and writing your own calls for the toolbox, I wouldn't want to go there again. Probably the best use for the toolbox is writing in C, because you've got the shims and you've got some examples to copy. But I'd say even in C, it shouldn't be any different really, because that TWimp file I've defined works for any language. And if my Basic was better, I'd demonstrate.